So we have these two sentences. Actually, yeah, it's 2.5, 3 sentences in your paper. And we're gonna kind of go through them, and I'm gonna ask you some questions about things that you would change in these 2 sentences. So first, can you read them for me, please?
This one.
All of the highlighted in blue, please.
Hegel then explores this concept further. In talking about the two kingdoms in relation to other doctrine, he explores Luther's large commentary on Galatians and the bondage of the will.
So first off, is there anything that you see right off the bat that you would change?
I would probably say in relation to his other doctrine, and then I would lowercase this he explores Luther's. I think that's where I'd start.
Okay. In relation to, you'd say you'd add his other doctrine. Why would you do that?
Because that's a little ambiguous. And because you don't know if it's Luther's other doctrine or Hegel. Is that right? Is that what I do? Or should I say, in relation to Luther's other doctrine?
Whose doctrine are you talking about?
Luther's.
Are we talking about Hagen's doctrine or Luther's doctrine?
Luther's.
So if we're talking about Luther's doctrine, who is the he?
Hegel. That's Hegel.
So he is the Hagen. So if you put the two his other doctrine, who's the his up there?
Luther.
What's the problem with that?
Well,
what's the problem with putting his and he? And meaning two different people.
You're confusing who you're talking about.
What does that do for your reader?
Confuse them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I would say in relation to Luther's other doctrine, Hegel.
Okay.
Hegel.
Now, we have 2 Luthers in a row and we have 2 Hagens in a row. How can we make that flow a little more smoothly?
So, could you just get rid of this first part here?
Which first part?
Could you just get rid of this? Hegel then explores this concept further and say, in talking about the two kingdoms.
What would that do for that sentence then?
This?
Yes. What would taking out that first sentence fix about the second then?
You're not repeating names like that?
Exactly. And what are your 2 verbs in these 2
explores
sentences?
And explores.
Explores and explores. And what is that? What's the problem with that?
Repetitive.
It's repetitive. And we want to minimize that as much as possible. And you can hear it, especially if you read it out loud.
Gotcha. So, take out Hegel, then so take out this.
Take out Hegel, and then explores this concept further. I think that's the best move.
So then, should I change this in any way so
Why don't you read it? Read it again.
So, in talking about the two kingdoms in relation to Luther's other doctrine, Hegel explores Luther's large commentary on Galatians and the bondage of the will.
Do you think that flows smoothly?
I think so, yeah.
Do you think it's repetitive?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Good job.
Am I wrong?
Okay, so for this second section, I'm going to ask you the same question again. What are the things you see right off the bat that I might possibly be looking for you to change, or that might be mistakes?
I need a period here, but not before God, or, wait, he can come sick, Luther's. Yeah, I'd put a period here inside the quotation because it's a quote.
Okay. Good. What does that do for those two? For that one sentence that's now two sentences then?
It doesn't make it a run-on?
Yeah, do you know why that changes it from being a run-on to not being a run-on?
Well, because there's a period in there?
Yes, because there's a period. What is your main... Can you find the verbs for me?
So, using comes to the conclusion.
Okay.
Is that a verb phrase, I guess? Using, and then within the quote is, this helps and gives.
Okay, yes. So for this second one, you have two, you said them, helps and gives. Helps and gives are those are your main verbs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so, since those are your main verbs of this clause, that is its own standalone sentence. You're right. And then in using these terms, what is the word in? What's the part of speech of in? Do you know?
A preposition?
It is a preposition. So what would this little section, what are the words that come after a preposition usually?
Say that again?
What are the words that come after a preposition?
So a noun or a verb? A period.
What do prepositions usually come before? Or what do they start in sentences? If you're thinking about sentences using chunks, so we have a noun phrase and a verb phrase, what do prepositions usually start?
A noun phrase? A verb phrase.
It's in the name.
Prepositional phrase?
Fudge, I'm going to get in trouble for that. That was not wise.
I thought I didn't know.
So we figured out that that's a prepositional phrase. And when you're talking about grammar, most of the time, nothing exciting happens grammatically in a prepositional phrase. So your main verb cannot be found in a prepositional phrase. So this first part is a prepositional phrase, and then we have
Then
Hagen.
you've got Hagen as the noun.
Yes.
Comes as the verb.
Yes, good job.
To the conclusion is
What is the word to?
It's a preposition. So
Good
preposition. So this is another prepositional phrase.
Yes.
About free will, is that another prepositional
Yes, it
phrase?
is. Good job. And then using Luther's methodology is a little clause right there. And then that starts the clause that has your quote in it, so that's not the main verb. So we'd have three verbs in that, and that's not okay. So what do we do to make that two sentences?
So, we just put a period.
Yeah, good job. Okay.
Wait, so as we did before, should I get rid of "in using these terms" so that the sentence just reads, Hagen comes to the conclusion about free will using Luther's methodology that, thus human will, etc., etc.
What do you think that's going to do for your sentence if you take that out?
It doesn't complicate it as much.
Okay.
I mean, you get rid of... Hang on.
It's okay, take your time.
Oh, okay, I think I like it in there. Because is it a good transition from this idea to this idea?
Good word. Yes. Why is it important to have transitions in there?
So your ideas flow.
Mm-hmm.
So this was okay to do it up here because it presented a new idea.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right to?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is and using these terms is okay because it's a transition.
Yes.
Okay. Look at that. I'm learning.
What else could we find in here that we could maybe adjust? Do you see anything else? So those prepositions that we were just talking about, Hagen comes to the conclusion about free will using Luther's methodology. How could we make this flow more smoothly? What are some adjustments you can make to kind of make that a little more clear.
Could you use different prepositions? Or, using these terms, Hagen comes to the conclusion about free will. So could you say, in using Luther's terms?
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to show how Hagen connects the theology together using Luther's methodology.
Okay. So how Hagen connects Luther's methodology with what?
So he describes the two kingdoms. He uses kingdom of man and kingdom of God, but then in his other one, he uses kingdom of earth and kingdom of heaven. So by using all four of those terms, he's coming to the same conclusion that human will is free in earthly matters, but not before God. And in Luther saying that, it helps us separate the, as I say here, this helps us separate the two kingdoms and give each its own distinction. So on earth, we have free will. In heaven.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
What I'm trying to say here.
Yes, it does. I understand what you're trying to say. Does Hagen come to one conclusion that is one that some people will come to about free will, or does he come to a conclusion that everyone shares? Does that make sense?
Yes. So, like, all Lutherans share that.
Okay.
Is that what you're aiming for?
How? I know I asked you this question already, but in the most simple terms that you possibly can use, what are you trying to say in just this, like, stop before your quote. What are you trying to say?
So, using Luther's term.
Which you explained earlier, so these is okay.
Okay. So I'm sorry, but so...
This author.
So in using these terms, Hagen comes to the conclusion about free will. Could you just get rid of using Luther's methodology? What are you asking?
Okay. So you're saying you're taking out using Luther's methodology. How do you feel about those two words which match and are repeated very closely?
Yeah, so you could say using... Oh. So you could, like we did up here, you could say, using Luther's methodology, Hagen comes to the conclusion about free will that thus human will is free in earthly matters, but not before God.
Good job. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we're gonna... What are you gonna do then?
So we're gonna move this up here.
Okay.
And you're
gonna move in using Luther's methodology to the top in front of Hagen.
So we're gonna say, using Luther's methodology, Hagen comes to the conclusion about free will that thus human will is free in earthly matters, but not before God. And then this helps us separate the two kingdoms, so on and so forth.
Good job.
Okay, so that's the same concept that we used before.
Yes.
Like, so when two verbs are like that, you try to cut them down as much as possible.
Good job. Yes.
Sweet.